We're looking at a submission today that promises a legal thriller, but kind of opens like a medical diary.
That's a great way to put it.
It's covering the feud between Candace Owens and Turning Point USA after Charlie Kirk's assassination. So, high-stakes stuff. But the creator seems to be wrestling with being a personality versus being a journalist.
Exactly. The content is there, the research seems to be there, but the way it's packaged is, I think, fighting the message.
Okay, let's dive right into that. The opening, the first minute. I honestly had to check if I was watching the right video. The title says Candace Owens lawsuit, but the audio is
About bats.
It is. The Ding Batman story. The host spends, almost a full minute on a story about being bitten by a bat, getting rabies shots, this whole Lissa virus thing, and a tattoo. Right. And I get it. Personal branding is king. You want that connection. So isn't sharing that kind of crazy life update a good thing? Does it really need to go?
That's a fair question. And, in a different context, I'd say yes. But you have to think about the promise of the click. Someone sees that title, they're in a very specific mindset.
They're in news mode.
They're in news mode, not story time mode. And when you hit them with rabies shots right out of the gate, it's a barrier. You're basically saying, okay, before I give you what you want, you have to listen to my personal lore.
It feels like a tax on the content.
A tax on the content, that's perfect. It asks for a level of patience a new viewer just hasn't given you yet.
So if we're trying to push this creator towards investigative commentator, do we just kill the story? It is pretty memorable.
No, you don't kill it. You move it. You use what I call the Marvel method.
The Marvel method?
Think about it. You get the whole movie, the big plot, and then, after the credits, there's that little bonus scene for the real fans.
Ah, the post-credits scene.
That's where Ding Batman belongs. Put it at the very end, a channel update. It becomes a reward for the loyalists, not a toll booth for everyone else.
I like that. So it respects the listener's time.
Right. And it clears the way for a proper cold open. You can replace that minute of bat talk with something that actually matches the intensity of the title.
So what does that sound like instead of just wandering in?
You drop them right in the middle of it. Something like, Candace Owens has officially entered her lawsuit era. In a stunning move, she's now demanding Turning Point put a price tag on her silence.
Okay, yeah, I feel that difference immediately. That hooks me.
And it completely reframes your authority. You're not the bad guy anymore. You're the analyst breaking down a massive legal threat.
Which is a perfect segue to our next point, the authority and the tone. Because even with a great hook, you have them listen. And there's some name call. I have to push back. This is YouTube commentary. Isn't that what the audience wants? A little bit of a fight?
To a point, yes. But this creator says later in the script they're on a truth-seeking mission. You can't really do both. You can't be an objective investigator while also sounding like you're just in a flame war.
You're talking about the narcissistic psychopath line.
I am. And Dingbat and calling her fans sicko fans and a cult?
Yeah, narcissistic psychopath is a clinical term.
It is. And unless the host has a degree we don't know about, it just sounds emotional. It sounds like a grudge. And the moment a listener smells bias, they start to question everything else you're saying.
So how do you fix it without being boring? If you take out the insults, does it just become dry?
No, I think you can make it even sharper. You swap the personal attacks for a behavioral analysis.
Okay, give me an example. How do you rewrite, she's a narcissistic psychopath?
You say something like, she is utilizing a strategy of calculated public defiance and weaponized victimhood to galvanize her base.
A weaponized victimhood. That's good.
See, it's more cutting because it exposes the tactic. It shows you're an expert who sees the game being played, not just another person yelling on the internet.
And the followers? Calling them sickos is probably not the best way to win them over.
It just shuts them out. It sounds childish. Instead of sickos, analyze why they're loyal. Describe them as, say, financially mobilized loyalists who prioritize personality-driven narratives over institutional reputation.
That sounds so much smarter.
Because it is. It elevates the whole discussion. It tells the audience, I'm not here to fight, I'm here to dissect.
I love that. Not here to fight, here to dissect. But okay, even with the right tone, the argument has to track. And I have to admit, I got lost in the middle there.
The Tim Dillon clip?
Yes. It felt like a scene was missing. The host plays this clip of Tim Dillon saying TPUSA is all about the money, and then, like, the very next breath, we're talking about Charlie Kirk setting up a Doge audit. I was just thinking, wait, how did we get here?
You're not alone. It's a huge logical leap. The host just assumes the audience can connect those dots, but the script never actually draws the line for them. It's assumption drift.
So how do you build that bridge? Right now, it feels like conspiracy math.
You need a setup context payoff structure. You have to walk the listener through it. You can't just jump from a comedian's podcast to a federal audit.
Okay, so walk me through it. How would you script that transition?
All right, you play the Tim Dillon clip. Then the host comes in and says something like, now, Tim Dillon's a comedian, so it's easy to dismiss that. But to understand why he might be right, why money could be the real motive, we have to look at what Charlie Kirk was doing just 7 days before he died.
Okay, I'm leaning in now. You've got my attention.
Exactly. Then you bring in the audit. You explain it was aimed at exposing financial impropriety, maybe even misuse federal funds. So when Dillon says it's about the money, your timeline suggests he's not just guessing.
That clicks. You've turned a random comment into a piece of evidence.
You're showing your work. Which brings us to, I think, the most important part of this whole thing, the legal analysis.
Yes. The host is analyzing Candace's defense, that her NDA is void because Charlie died, and, God's on her side.
Right. Her argument is basically unforeseeable circumstances and that it would be unconscionable to stay silent.
And the host just laughs at it. He says she makes her own rules and moves on, which is funny, but I didn't learn anything.
And that's the huge missed opportunity. If you're an investigative commentator, you can't just mock a defense. You have to legally dismantle it. You need to Steelman her argument.
Steelman? I hear that a lot. What does that mean in this context?
It means you build up the strongest possible version of her argument first. If you can explain her point better than she can, and then show why it's wrong, you've earned the audience's total trust.
So we don't just mock frustration of purpose, we explain it?
Exactly. The host should say, okay, let's take this seriously. Frustration of purpose is a real legal concept. It's like if you rent a balcony to watch a parade, but the parade gets canceled. Candace is basically arguing that Charlie's assassination is that canceled parade.
When you put it like that, it actually sounds plausible.
It does. And that's what makes the takedown so much more powerful. Once you've established that, then you drop the hammer.
And how do we drop the hammer?
You explain the concept of a corporate entity. You say, however, courts almost never apply this to NDAs. Why? Because an NDA is designed to survive a crisis. It protects the brand, not just one person. When a founder dies, that is exactly when an NDA is most important.
So her whole God is the ultimate judge defense
Means absolutely nothing in a civil court. You separate moral obligation from contractual breach. And by explaining that, the host proves their expertise.
It changes the narrative from Candace is crazy to Candace is legally vulnerable.
Correct. And that is a much more powerful conclusion. It's based in fact, not just opinion.
Okay, we've covered the hook, tone, logic, and the legal analysis. But we have to stick the land. And the current ending, it just kind of fizzles out.
It really does. After all this build-up, lawsuit, scorched earth, the host just says, I guess we'll wait and see, and signs off at the ding Batman persona.
It lets all the air out of the balloon.
Completely destroys the tension. You want to leave the listener needing to know what happens next.
So how do we fix the outro? What do we replace the wait and see with?
You focus on the ultimatum she made. Name your price. That is a massive threat. You don't just walk away from that.
So you frame the future as a test for turning.
Precisely. The host could say something like, the ball is now firmly in Turning Point's court. They have 2 choices. Do they accept the money? If they do, they prove Candace right that it was always a cash grab.
And if they don't?
Or do they sue her and risk that scorched earth discovery process she's threatening, where she airs out every skeleton in their closet?
That's a rock in a hard place.
It is. And that's your final line. You end with something like, Candace has asked them to name their price. The real question is, can Turning Point afford the cost of the truth?
And cut to black.
Cut to black. No like and subscribe, no bless, just that hanging thread. It makes the piece unforgettable.
It's a huge shift. We're taking a script that feels like a casual vlog and turning it into, well, a professional broadcast.
That's the whole journey, right? It's about respecting the material.
So let's recap the big points for the listener.
Okay.
First, structure. Move the personal story to the end. Start with a cold open that hooks the listener immediately.
Second, tone. Swap the ad hominem attacks for behavioral analysis. Weaponized victimhood is always stronger than psychopath. It builds your authority.
And the logic holes.
You have to bridge those gaps. Use that setup, context, payoff model. Show your work. Don't assume the audience can read your mind.
And finally, the legal part.
Steelman her argument, explain the real legal concepts before you tear them down, and always end on the high-stakes ultimatum.
I really think this creator is on the edge of breaking through to that next level of commentary.
I agree. The instincts are there. It just needs this final layer of polish on the structure and tone to become a real powerhouse.
To the listener who sent this in, please make these changes and submit it again. We would love to see how it evolves. That's all for this critique. Now, go get to work.